And with that, the music is back. After we ruined all of wrestling podcasts last week, I thought, what the hell, let's bring it back. Although I am tiring of this particular theme song. We'll need to find something new. Here on the Torn Quadcast with your hosts, Elliott Serrano and Mark Allen Fishman. If this is your first time tuning in, the Torn Quadcast is the show where we talk about sports entertainment, sports, and entertainment. Last week we were, if you did not listen to us on the stick, so to speak, on WRMN radio, that's WRMN 1410 AM in the Fox River Valley. You can always watch the shows, which are archived on the WRMN radio YouTube page, which I'm sure many of you are watching this on the YouTube page. But all the previous shows can be found on there. And last week's, it was a bonus episode, lots of bonus content. We went over 2 hours last week because we were talking about WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. That by the
more
time,
like WrestleMania.
there's already a site called WrestleMania. Actually, yeah. Sorry, you thought you were being clever.
I probably already saw it somewhere, and I just thought,
subconsciously.
Yep.
That's something that Robin Williams would do. Apparently, he would steal other comedians' jokes, not realizing it. Like he'd go to, let's say, an open mic or a show, and a whole bunch of folks would be up there, and then next thing you know, he'd go up and do a set, and suddenly find himself doing a variation of a joke some other comedian already did. So he had someone there just writing checks to people. Hey, Robin stole my joke. Oh, sorry. Right.
Here you go.
I'm paying you for the joke, just so you know.
This is why we did Aladdin. Don't worry. You're fine.
So we do talk about sports entertainment, wrestling for the most part. Our bonus episode last week was pretty big because on the YouTube channel we can go as long as we want, as opposed to on the radio where it's generally we've got an hour to work with. And this week we'll dump it. This week I don't know. We'll go a little lighter on the WWE because we've really been talking about that a lot, and even I am right now in my WWE doldrums at this point. I'm in my post-WrestleMania hangover period. And even watching Raw now, it's like I think the WWE folks feel like they are in their WrestleMania hangover period.
They just might be. I mean, honestly, I think we covered pretty much all the great storylines that were coming out of there. I think maybe the only thing that we missed that really carried over that didn't get talked about too much that I noticed is this whole Becky Lynch taking Bayley's spot, and how much of that is a work, how much of that is a shoot, and now she's like immediately flipped into bad guy mode. It was interesting, but like many things, it's one of those, I'm not sure how much of this is real, I'm not sure how much of it's fake for WWE. And
yeah,
there's a couple of those things floating, right? So we've got that one. We've got Karrion Kross being allowed to shoot a little bit. So there's some interesting things, but I think maybe we just let them cook, as the kids say. Let them cook.
Well, you can cook, but what ingredients are you working with is the other thing, too.
Oh, we can also mention, hey, how about this? 3 cheers for Aleister Black returning like nothing's happened.
I missed that, if that was the case.
He came out on SmackDown to interrupt The Miz, and The Miz did what The Miz does well, is he sold brilliantly for a big old kick to the chin. So Aleister Black is back, and he's spooky, and he's the same, and I just hope, like everybody else, he gets, something good to do.
It's the thing, I know we've talked about this previously, but now, WWE is like, not only are they sucking in all the talent from everywhere else, and they're developing their own. It's like, all right, I mean, that's great, I guess. I mean, if you want to be in WWE, it's kind of like, I want to pitch in the major leagues. Oh, fine. But there are only so many teams, and you only get so many innings, so to speak. They've got a lot of talent right now. And
they're
I don't
kind
know,
of at a breaking point. Yeah,
they are. It's like it's getting really top heavy because they're also pulling in all this NXT talent and featuring them more on the main roster. Although not necessarily as WWE talent, but as NXT talent, right?
yeah, they do this from time to time, and we know this is what happens. NXT swells because you eventually get to a spot on that roster where you've either carried one of the major titles long enough that they know what you look like as a champion. You've probably run the gamut from heel to face or face to heel and back again. So there's nothing left for you to do. You either remain there now as, a tent pole for some other youngster to go over, or you get the call up and then you have to kind of start anew. I think Triple H is probably savvy enough to, test the waters and see how much does guy coming in from NXT pop the crowd for the main roster, and how much work do I have to do to gain all their overness from Florida up? Because I'll be honest, I don't follow NXT. I don't know any of their any of the homegrowns that haven't come from other places that I know them from. So I know none of them, honestly. Like I saw that one of the guys came up and he looked cool, but don't know who he is. Trick Williams or something like that. I don't see them. So, I'm one of those fans where it's like, you're going to have to sell this guy to me if I care.
It's funny. I think I had made a comment about Swerve Strickland a while back. I think that's who I confused with Trick Williams for some reason. I mean, they're like nothing alike or whatever, but still.
I don't know. I think they might be a little.
Yeah, little.
But, I mean, I said I don't know enough about Trick Williams, but I know if I stared at both of them and said they could have been in a tag team for all I know.
Right. Oh. It's just well, I mean, WWE does have an embarrassment of riches right now. And if I were in WWE as talent, I guess I'll be grateful because it's a nice paycheck. The benefits are pretty good. I mean, they have medical now. Can you believe it? They actually have medical.
I can believe it. Yes.
Yeah. So it's why did it take an economic crash while the rest of the world is struggling to make ends meet? The talent in WWE are getting decent paychecks and medical. I don't have that.
I'd say it's not the crash that did that. I'd say it's the crash of a certain individual from a very high spot on that board.
Yeah.
And the person who fills those shoes now has really been there and knows, like, it's one of those, quick things. It's the same people that see that point out to Bruce Wayne he would do way better just paying to fight crime as Bruce Wayne than fighting it as Batman.
Which he does. I know there are some writers that have Bruce Wayne. His foundation does things to help poverty.
Oh yeah, he's super philanthropic, but you can
remember,
make the argument.
There is corruption in Gotham. And,
yes.
And if the Joker won't go to therapy, what are you gonna do?
Yes. And no one's fighting for Bruce Wayne adventurer philanthropist book. Just when the whole 6-issue arc is him just like filing the right annuities, selling the right stock.
Well, it's funny. I had proposed. I had a pitch for a one shot, a World's Finest one shot, where it was Superman and Batman decide they're going to switch big bads. Like, okay, you're going to deal with this guy, and I'm going to deal with that guy. And it was essentially Batman would take on Lex Luthor while Superman dealt with the Joker, right?
Right.
It was, what was it? It was like a thing between, and I was trying to make it a way where it didn't want to seem unbelievable, but it's like, okay, you're going to deal with Lex Luthor, but you can only do it as Bruce Wayne, and you're going to deal with Joker, but you can only do it as Clark Kent. So on the Bruce Wayne side, that's the easiest part. Bruce Wayne essentially uses the Wayne Foundation to do a hostile takeover of LexCorp, and just go in, figure out ways to buy up all the stock, that do all those things.
He could business Batman him pretty well.
Business, right? And then Clark Kent is essentially, he's reporting everything that Joker is up to. Like the Joker, like taking away all the mystery of him. All the
So frustrating
chaos.
him.
Yeah, all the chaos, whatever. It's like, no, I'm a step ahead of you. And like Joker, it's like what? How did he know that? How could he be reporting that? I haven't even done that yet. And so yeah. And my dog isn't crazy about the pitch apparently because he's like,
I think your dog is really for the pitch. Those are barks of yes, give me more.
Yes.
Let me figure it out.
But to me, it's always which speaks to the point where I honestly find Batman more interesting as Bruce Wayne. Just like I really dig Clark Kent more than Superman. Doing it,
like many things, it really depends on who's writing it, who's presenting it. And I think you make a good point specifically about comics. By the way, everyone take a shot every time we just change subjects completely randomly, because we're going to fall down the rabbit hole pretty hard. I can already tell.
And again, we talk about other things other than wrestling. And I before we even came on the air, I was like, you know what? I feel like talking about a little more comics this week. So, yeah.
And I'm here for the ride, and I love it. No, I just think it's a good point, and it's something that I personally love in comics is when you have a balance with the superhero and the secret identity, and you make both of them compelling. Because if you get too deep in the weeds, and I'll give you a great character example, Wally West. I have a slew of his books written by Mark Waid, and you can count the number of panels Wally appears, I think, on one hand. It is pretty much all Flash versus his rogue gallery. It's great. I loved it as a kid, or whatever, teen, 20-year-old that was buying the books. But like my favorite characters, like Kyle Rayner, the Green Lantern, growing up with him, there was as much time spent with him as freelance artist, boyfriend, that kind of thing, balanced with the space cop kind of stuff. And if you get too deep, I mean, this is what Marvel built an empire on, right? You cared as much about Peter Parker as you did about Spider-Man. It was never one or another. And even when they had books like Fantastic Four dropping soon to theaters near you, you still got home life with those characters versus just always going out and facing the next what have you.
Because that's what made the book popular. I mean, when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby decided to pretty much go against the grain as far as superhero comics and create a family as opposed to a team, and then that essentially is what catapulted Marvel Comics to be the number one publisher in the world at that point. In fact, they've been holding on to that title pretty much since. I had pitched a Lois Lane comic to DC years back. I said, it's Lois Lane and Clark Kent. He would be in there. And it was essentially Murphy Brown in the DC universe. It's all the stuff that Lois Lane goes through from day to day as a reporter and reporting on things in the DC universe. And while Clark Kent was there, Superman would never appear. Clark Kent could be there, but he would never appear as Superman. And I thought that would be fun. The editor at the time that I pitched it to said that would never sell.
It's insider baseball, I would suppose, and I guess it's the same reason why the WWE does what they do, right? It's butts and seats at the end of the day, and as much as we may have a really novel idea, again, I said I've never officially pitched anything to any Marvel or DC editor because I had no idea that's how you do it. But in my head and a Google Doc, my only swing, I wanted to do a Flash story that was told from the villain's perspective, where his cadre of villains, whatever they called themselves, all decide to commit minor crimes and just make Central City the worst place. Not in an evil way, just in a wow, like basically the weather wizard says, I'm just going to keep it kind of gray and drizzly forever. And it's little stuff like that. They just came up with basically a list to annoy and just go ahead and do that. There's nothing illegal to using your weather machine to make the weather sucky.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just a compounding of that. And I had lists for all of them doing stuff like that, like Mirror Master basically flipping the mirror on your selfie camera every time the TikTokers would try to do stuff. So just all these mild annoyances basically just to mess with the Flash at the end of the day.
That's somewhat similar to a pitch I had done where it was this was going to be for the Superman Adventures comic that was based on the Bruce Timm,
the cartoon
series.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was going to be was essentially Superman having the worst day possible. It's like what makes it would be like a day that would test even his patience. And one of the things he would run into is Lois wants a soda from the Daily Planet pop machine, and he puts in $1 and the machine keeps spitting it back, and he keeps going through all these dollars, and it won't take any single dollar he puts in until he gets so frustrated he just like pummels it and shakes a can out. So
which, I mean, that's why we love watching that. Everyone wants that to happen for sure.
Yeah.
And
I had a flash, my only flash pitch. It was going to be because I was thinking the idea was if you want to pitch things to DC, usually it was DC, because DC always had you could pitch like short stories. It said if you were trying to break in, pitch a short story that they can use like as a inventory story, right? So like an editor is like, I need a short story for an annual or something. We'll do a 10-pager. I can get like an artist, that's up and coming to write, to work on it, and then you write it. It was a 10-pager. It was going to be just called 60 Seconds. And it's a 10-page story, 6 panels per page. It would be the Flash dealing with something, and every panel would be 1 second in the story. And it's like, him, because he's so fast, he can do whatever. Yeah. So that was going to be the pitch, but still.
This is why neither of us are writing for Marvel or DC at the moment, but just give it another 10, 15 years. It'll be okay.
My dream job is still out there. I want to do Star Wars. I want to do the two are Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones. And I've been told that Indy is harder to pitch than any character at Lucasfilm.
I could see that to a point, especially given I don't know how much. Obviously, you know the canon super well. That would be my guess as to why it's harder to pitch, because you can't plucking a time for him in a place.
Yeah,
because he is
and a MacGuffin.
Yeah, you've got to have something that. I mean, so they've had hit or miss on those.
I've got two MacGuffins that have not been done throughout all the indie books. I've all the movies, all the comics, all the novels, none of them. Even with the recent video game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, they still use the MacGuffin that had been done in one of the books. I've got two.
Hold on to them. We don't want to.
Yeah, I know.
Sadly for me, I can't have my dream entertainment universe because it has been legally blocked from public. I grew up with the already dead Malibu Ultraverse.
The Ultraverse, yeah.
So this was similar to the way Image Comics came out of, a group of writers and artists that were not being respected enough in the business, and they formed Image and, changed the industry. You flash forward a couple years later, and a similar grouping of editors and like-minded folks wanted to do something akin to Image, but more, I'd say, universal, family-friendly, throwbacky, but still of the era. And it got licensed into a cartoon show, which is how I found it, because I was not a kid who had cable. And when you got a new cartoon, it was appointment television. We got a show called Ultra Force. I watched that. I loved what I thought were unique characters. What I learned later is all of them were kind of pastiches of existing people.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. And Unshaven Comics Matt Wright, on my, what would that be, 12th birthday, rode his bike to my house in the middle of the December cold to deliver me my birthday present, an Ultra Force #1 and The Strangers #1 back issues, which he had located from a Skokie-based comic book shop that he would go to on the weekends when he was up there with his dad. He did not tell me that they were like dollar books. I just thought like, oh my God, he's given me these 2 precious number 1s bagged and boarded. This is amazing. And then he's like, yeah, you could just go to Fiction House, the Homewood comic shop, and they have a whole box of them. And every week I would come with my allowance and I would just buy more and more and more of that box till the point where the guys are like, do you just want us to hold the box? Because no one else is picking these up. And I was like, yes, absolutely. I ended up buying almost the entire Malibu universe available in back issue.
But didn't Neil Adams do covers for that?
Few here and there.
Yeah. I think I remember Neil Adams covers.
They had some really top talent, I thought. But eventually Marvel bought them and tried in vain to incorporate a few bits and pieces of the not so great Marvel universe to try to like maybe pump this D-class universe up. It did not work. And basically Marvel just holds the license and doesn't really ever want to do anything with it. Though interestingly enough, I point out, like, by absorbing that, they got a couple of great DC pastiches that they could certainly use, but they won't. So
yeah, I mean, they already have their own versions of DC pastiches. Squadron Supreme, their answer to Justice League has been, elevated over time, although actually quite cleverly. And that will be the all-time greatest comic book nerd joke that Kurt Busiek wrote for the JLA Avengers crossover. When you've read it, right?
Yes, but
it's been a
recently.
While. Right. So there's this bit where the Avengers and the JLA meet for the first time, and Hawkeye goes, "Oh, I get it. These guys are a bunch of Squadron Supreme knockoffs." Which
like it.
Makes perfect sense in that universe when you consider that it's really the other way around. But to Hawkeye, it's, to him, the Justice League are knockoffs of the Squadron Supreme, which is
true.
Hilarious.
Before we have to end the segment, I have to ask you now, burning question. If we lived in a comic continuity in which Batman and, the DC and Marvel universes were one and the same, somehow the universe needed that many heroes, would Batman, A, be worthy of, and B, get his hands on the super soldier serum?
I think
because we know that he doesn't do Venom unless, like, oh my God, I'm going to die and Venom will help me. But
yeah, that's an interesting question. Something that I'm sure nerds will debate for many years to come. But we will debate in the second half of today's episode of the Torn Quadcast. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. Just stick around on the YouTube for 60 seconds. If you're listening to us on the stick, we'll be back after this commercial break. This is Elliott Serrano and Mark Allen Fishman. This is a Torn Quadcast on WRMN Radio and the WRMN YouTube page. And we are back. This is the Torn Quadcast with your hosts, Elliott Serrano and Mark Allen Fishman. Thank you so much for tuning in or watching here on the YouTube page, tuning in on the stick. The Torn Quadcast is the show where we talk about sports entertainment, professional wrestling, WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, and all the other indies, as well as other forms of sports and entertainment. And we did lead off a little bit about, WWE, which, again, we're in the doldrums right now, talking about the post-Wrestlemania hangover. Raw has been, besides the Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman angle, which I don't know.
I was excited about it until I saw the headline drop this morning that confirms that that's it. Those three are a unit. There's no other plans to add or change that. And that was a little disappointing. Not that I need them to like build a super unit per se, but I liked that at least the pre-rumor was that we would get another female talent as part of that group, and possibly some other like, either a tag team or just something else. But I can understand they're still petering around with Judgment Day, so let's not make any comparisons.
Yeah, and the factions being what they are, well, although outside of the Judgment Day, what factions are left? The Bloodline's gone.
Yeah, I mean it is, but it isn't. They're all still around, but
yeah, because they did a brief thing where Solo was coming out and like saying that Jacob Fatu was champion because of him and all that, and then Jacob Fatu was like, "Yeah, you know what? I did this on my own." So it's like, oh, well, they're not reforming the Bloodline.
No, I guess they've got. I just had it and I lost it. How bad is that? The LWO, right? Aren't they still?
Yeah, the LWO is still around. La Liga de la Fantasma, which had the greatest name, to me though, also gone. You got the AAA where you've got you've got Penta and Ray Phoenix, where they finally call themselves the Lucha Bros.
Oh, so, now they are? Okay.
Yeah, they call themselves the Lucha Bros. So I'm like,
that
okay.
Didn't take long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the brand right there. I mean, that Triple H recognized what they were doing and said, okay, let's pull you in. I mean, you've done most of our marketing for us already. And you've already got a clothing line, a t-shirt line, all that stuff. You've got the Lucha Bros brand. You've got a following. Let's pull you in. And now you won't have to produce the shirts anymore. We'll have fanatics do it for you, and just fold them into the great marketing machine that is WWE.
Well, both of those, they poached both of them out from AEW, which has been, a recent thing that's been happening. And, and again, this is how wrestlers should actually use the market to their advantage. When you have competing companies, even if they are not on the same level, for the individual workers, if you work really, really hard in AEW and suddenly you find yourself not where you want to be on the card, and WWE comes calling because they see that you're ready-made, yeah, why wouldn't you go up? Like you said, better pay, probably the same amount of dates, but less shattered glass in your back and medical.
And no baseball bats with spikes on them.
Right, no spiked baseball bats, no gimmicked claymores or whatever. Interestingly enough, on the same topic, though, I will point out that it's been made known publicly that WWE is attempting to poach AEW talent Mariah May. And she's been quiet. She's been very mum about the subject, which I guess you'd have to be if you're, using this as leverage for your own contract, right? So she came in to AEW, immediately paired off with Tony Storm, and that brewed for like 4 months, then turned into a massive, wonderful angle. They had 2 absolutely brilliant, brutal matches, and she took some time off after those because the story completed. And AEW, I like that they do this. When you have a big blow off like that, they usually let the loser kind of like go home and lick their wounds for a couple of months and like get the heat back naturally. She's been taking that break, and I guess the break is almost over, and WWE has made it very clear, like, you can come over here. We will roll the red carpet out for you.
But she'd get lost in the whole thing. I mean,
Look, as an AEW fan, I don't want her to go, and
yeah.
especially because of that. Because, like, I mean, how much angrier can Charlotte Flair be if there's yet another prettier version of her?
True. And it's like, again, it's the talent, the roster is getting very top heavy. I mean, again, I'm not going to flip flop here. If I've got to toil in AEW or get, again, get the benefits of WWE, okay, I don't know what the paydays are in AEW. From what I understand, they're pretty decent. Tony Khan pays the talent fairly well, but as CM Punk has said, the organization overall is not as well put together as WWE.
No,
Obviously, they don't have talk about medical, all that kind of stuff that as a talent you would like to have. So
right.
WWE is doing it.
And
But
that's a structural thing because, first of all, Tony Khan put up the money for this, and he wants to be Booker because, hey, billionaire baby boy wants to do what he wants to do. He's gonna let him.
yeah, he's got the toys. He wants to play with them. Yeah.
But he didn't write the bylaws. The Young Bucks did, as did Cody Rhodes. So you could have them to thank a little bit more about like what the boys get or don't get, but they had to sell this to Tony Khan in the first place, and that's how they did it. Because the man already pays plenty for his Jacksonville Jaguars. So
Yeah.
I suppose he didn't
Yeah.
want to replicate. You would think that he could. Like, couldn't he just put him in the same PEO and just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we've talked about it. I think I'm sorry, but Tony Khan does a piss poor job marketing that brand, the access to it. Again, I harp on this time and again. I watch AEW on Max, and there's never anything on there that makes me go, okay, I got to come back next week because
The production of his shows is very much, I want these people to wrestle today. And there are great storylines that are happening right now, but really, like, the way I consume it is like every night I catch a couple of matches and I go to sleep. And the shows are never, they don't feel like an episode. They just feel like you are just
right.
picking up on the next whatever. And it's good for some, it's not so for others. My favorite, MJF, when that kid don't want to wrestle, he don't wrestle, which means you get 3 to 6 weeks worth of character work, which is always okay. But you can only do the frustrate me until you get punched in the face so many times before it's like, okay, get a new gear, change your story. What they're doing right now with him specifically, it is interesting because he's used all his tricks, and the people that he's trying to trick are looking him in the face and saying, we know what you're trying to do, so stop it, change it. And they're getting the one up on him, and he's clearly letting it happen. Like this past week, Bobby Lashley stole his car. Sort of.
That,
Like, because the week before,
wait, did he? What kind of car was it? And was it a smash and grab? Because I don't want to think it was like anything that could be problematic in the interpretation.
No. It's very clear the way they present this is that Max came on the week before with this fancy Rolex and all the women of the night, and Shelton Benjamin took some of those ladies out for a good time and said, "I like your watch. Give me your watch." He gives them the watch. The next week, MJF drives up in today's beautiful rented sports car for people with small things going on between their legs. He comes out, tells the kid don't get any scratches on it, comes down to the ring, says, "Hey, come on, give me those 3 thumbs up. That's what I need to join your gang." And Shelton goes, "You know what? Thumbs up to you." And MVP, thumbs up to you. And then Bobby Lashley. And he goes, "Bobby, wait, before you give me the thumbs down, because I know you're going to give me the thumbs down." Like, he starts to like, look, if I'm being upfront, I want to join your group so that I can win the heavyweight championship. And once I win the heavyweight championship, we will run all of AEW because you have the tag belts. I'll have this belt. It'll be great. Now, does that mean you run the business? Probably not, but whatever. And then, Bobby thinks about it and he goes, and he starts to go, no, he goes, what else? What else can I do? And Bobby's like, well, you had that really nice car. Can I see the car? Can we like go for it? And he's like, yeah, let's go for a ride. Let's go. And they walk to the back. And Bobby goes, "Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, this is nice. Let me see the keys." And Max is like, "Well, I mean, I would, take you around the block." And Bobby just takes the keys. He goes, "Oh, or you could borrow the, yeah, you could take the keys, mind the leather." And he just hops in, waves Shelton over. They bump fists and peel out. And it was just like, oh, I'm just going to take advantage. And, MVP and MJF are staring at each other. And he's like, what was that? And he's like, got to let him do what he's going to do. And I'm not sure what you get from that, right? So we're going to go drive around in a fast sports car that you rented. Whatever. I'm excited to see them all give the thumbs up. Hopefully that's tonight. And we can see where this is actually going, because they are ramping up. We have one half-size pay-per-view, and then their WrestleMania is happening in the summer at whatever sports field in Texas. Yeah. And clearly that's where Jon Moxley hopefully drops the strap. But would it be against MJF? Could it be against whoever wins the Owen Cup, which is going on right now? So there's some story if you care. And I will say this, AEW, more than WWE, knows how to run a tournament. Like, I've enjoyed their tournaments a lot.
I mean, AEW should change their name from All Elite Wrestling to artisanal entertainment wrestling, because that's what it is. I mean, it's you've got to be into that. Yes, WWE is like Sonic Burgers or Five Guys, whatever.
Be nice. It's McDonald's.
I mean, to a point. Whereas, AEW is way, it's like Five Guys, or
I was about to say, it's on that it's a Five Guys, or it's, what it is? It's the hipster burger joint in your city.
Yeah, pretty much.
Brick walls, uncomfortable chairs, and $20 burgers.
Yeah, and $13 milkshakes. I'm only referencing a hipster burger place that I went to in the city of Chicago, which is like, no. I did it in my Google review. They even responded.
I hate to be Vincent Vega about this, but $13 for a milkshake, that's just milk and ice cream? They don't put no bourbon in it?
Nope. Better be a good motherfucking...
Uh-oh.
Okay. Hey. Well, this isn't going on the stick.
Can we just insert the can we splice in, or would we get in more trouble if you spliced in the clip from the Avengers where Tony goes language?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna have to tell Sonar this episode can't go on the stick because of my slip of the tongue.
Can't we not just bleep it?
No, I don't know how to do that on here. I wish I knew.
Well,
or maybe he could, but I'm not going to make him listen to this whole rambling show just to find the one bit where he needs to,
We have it timestamped. It's at 37 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I was paying attention.
I would hate to do that to him. Anywho, the bit with... Wait, did you? What was that? Okay. So when it comes to wrestling, again, I don't mean to poo-poo on All Elite Wrestling. I think it's great. I think the more the product that's out there, the more that it appeals to different audiences, the better it is for the industry, the better it is for talent.
In the same way that, like I have tried in vain several times to give TNA a chance, and same to you. I've never been able to find it. I can never find whole matches. And while I listen to enough mainstream wrestling news to kind of know what's going on over there, and by the way, TNA, if you didn't know, is now in leagues with the WWE. So put them somewhere on your totem pole as to like, does the NXT champion, is that, conditionally below the TNA champion, which is, of course, below like the WWE European champion?
Yeah. With the number of times that the TNA champion has gone on WWE programming to basically do a job, I'm pretty sure NXT is above TNA.
Which is really saying something, given, again, like there's some interesting lineage if you follow. The Wikipedia for TNA alone is 18,000 pages.
I mean, TNA technically is the would be the NWA lineage, but But
NWA restarted itself.
yeah, but yeah, NWA's out there. I mean, but you would have Jeff Jarrett would insist that that's kind of pulled in there, and TNA just feels like WCW. It's just you can tell they have all the same camera guys, it's all the same production.
It's
crew.
WCW in the last 8 weeks. That's
Yeah,
what that feels like.
right. And it's like, and you know, when Jeff Jarrett comes out and tries to do an angle, I'm like, dude, I mean, I respect the guy. He's had a hell of a career. He does a hell of a lot for the industry. But after a while, it's like, dude, just, you know.
Hey, I'll be the first one to say I agree with you. I respect the man by the lineage or whatever. He's never once entertained me in a segment or a match. Ever. Except maybe the first vignette era of JEFFJARRETT.
Yeah, I actually like that. Yeah, JARR.
I liked that, and I liked just the dumbest looking costume. He had a collar and like 4 ribbons that came down to his pants.
Yeah.
It was the dumbest look, but man, it was different, and he was terrible in the ring. His finisher never looked good, but you know, as a kind of early 90s, came in on the dying era of your job is your gimmick, because he was singing cowboy.
Yeah.
And then having to readjust for the Attitude Era, which he didn't. And then when he realized my star ain't going nowhere, moved himself onto TNA, Impact, Global Force, name your whatever. He also had a stint in WCW. He was one of the NWOs for a while.
To me, Jeff Jarrett's greatest contribution will be his wife, who ultimately ended up with Stone Cold Steve Austin until he divorced her as well.
The less said there, the better. But all these weirdos from Texas and Tennessee, man, stop it. All
those South, I mean, and like Jerry Lawler is still out there. I know he's alive, but he's not doing anything. He's like, you know,
still adopting puppies. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Oh God. Anywho, it's just crazy when you think about the characters in pro wrestling and that. Oh, and now that WWE is going to be coming out with yet another show where they're going to essentially talk about all the stuff that goes into production. We're going to get to see them booking. We're going to go into the writer's room. You know, Triple H is essentially going to take everyone behind the curtain. You're going to see how they set things up. They even do a bit where I saw in one of the trailers where they're showing a mat, and like Cody Rhodes is lying on the mat, and then you could hear someone backstage going, "Is he okay? Is he okay? Oh, he's still selling. Okay." So you're like, man, wow, they're just
is the attempt here to try to give Vince an aneurysm? Just keep. I mean, I'm all for it, because I mean, look,
but there was a time. There was a time where you could get killed for doing that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I understand what they're trying to do, and it's akin to what works for the youth right now. Is the youth care about the BTS? They want to know what's going on and how it's built. But I will say, like, I refuse to watch this stupid LFG.
Yeah, where is it, by the way? I don't know where to find it. I was going to actually mention that
I think you have to scan a QR code on a Slim Jim
and find it, because it's like WWE is now producing stuff everywhere. They're on Roku, they're on Tubi, they're on wherever, Hulu. Like, where do I find these
Peacock.
shows?
Peacock. I don't know, but I've seen enough clips of that LFG show to know that I would hate watch that. If only because, like, I loved Tough Enough for what it was at the time. You know, it was this MTV slick produced reality show, but you could see a little bit of the behind the scenes. But what I really loved about it is it elevated people like Al Snow and Bob Holly and some other folk, the real like workers behind the scene. And they took such care for these kids. And then every now and again, you would have a superstar come in, and it's one of the best clips you'll ever see. Is Triple H comes in and works them out. Right. And he's like, you take a bump, you take a bump, you pull up your shorts. I can see your private parts.
Yeah.
You know, and they had Big Show come in to do a slap. Also great controversy. Kurt Angle came in and said, hey, let's, like, you know, go at it. And there was Daniel Puder, who was an MMA fighter, and now he's with Kurt, and he gets Kurt in a Kimura, something like, he basically almost breaks his arm, and you could see the instincts of Angle, who really can wrestle Olympic. He puts the guy down, but like you could see, like, if the cameras weren't here right now, I'd be going to jail.
Yeah.
And now they've homogenized even that. Now we've got The Undertaker and Bubba Ray and I think Booker T and a couple others training these new kids and telling them about the business. And I don't know what it is. Just, it's so homogenized. There's this clip of some young lady going up to The Undertaker and asking for his finisher.
Yeah. But they don't show that Michelle McCool encouraged her to do that. Like, you go to him, and it's like, he's like, what?
Yeah. So. Honey, I know that you only wrestled 12 matches and you have your Hall of Fame ring, but all of my great finishers are mine, including the wedgie powerbomb, that one submission I did once.
Oh my God.
And the tombstone, which, credit where it's due. Tombstones always look great. Always work for him. I just don't like The Undertaker.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, again, respect, but yeah, I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's controversial, but I always know among my friends back in the Attitude Era, I used to get a lot of flack because they were all Taker guys, and I just pointed out, they're like, "Why don't you like him?" I'm like, any wrestler that takes 18 minutes to walk to the ring, never gonna be a fan.
Well, that was always his gimmick, right? The entrance.
Yeah, I could care less. I'm glad that he got all of his wind walking, but man, from a fan's perspective, just you pick up the pace even a little bit.
I swear. Anyway, I don't know. Well, hey, we're talking some wrestling, right? Which is what people would expect here on the Torn Quadcast. If we're talking about sports, entertainment, sports, and entertainment. All right, you know what? I know this show is not going to be on the stick as it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, I will answer the question about whether Batman would take on the Super Soldier Serum. I want to talk about what's coming up next, which is essentially the Thunderbolts movie coming out.
Yep.
And add to that what's coming up from. I've been hearing some good stuff about it, but also what should be coming from DC Comics. So, quick break to step off. In the event that Sonar can somehow save this episode for the stick, but if not, again, that's on me. My apologies to you, Mark. But,
I'm having fun.
I hope so. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Quick 10-second break. All right, folks, we are back here on the Torn Quadcast here on the WRMN Radio YouTube page. I am Elliott Serrano. That is Mark Allen Fishman. And if you're wondering why we have to take breaks, I essentially need to give Dennis room to edit and segment the episodes for the airing on, of course, on the channel as well as for the podcast, although not necessarily for the podcast. And I will learn on Saturday if this even goes over the air. My bad. But it's an interesting thing working in radio these days because the market is shifting so much. The word just came out that the Texas Senator Ted Cruz. His show is going to be airing in Chicago on Sundays on WGN. Why? I don't know why. Who wants to listen to that? Who in Illinois wants to listen to that is my question.
Who anywhere but in his literal own district.
Pretty much. And I know on GN, they know the signal in the Chicago signal reaches up north and into Canada. But I'd like to know who in Canada wants to listen to that show.
No, and I know we're not supposed to veer into that land of politics, but I will say hilariously, I was talking about Ted Cruz this morning with a friend who also asked out of nowhere, and she's an indie, and she was like, she started talking about like how Ted Cruz is not like in the major circles, and how did that happen? And I just said, I'm still baffled that guy gets reelected.
Yes, the dude, people hate him. Everyone outside of Texas hates him.
He must have the most gerrymandered district in all of the United States. It literally must be his house, and then his mom's house, and then any of his extended family who know that by voting him in gets him out of the neighborhood.
Yep, gets him out of the state for a few weeks, a month.
That's my working theory.
Yeah, the saying goes that Ted Cruz could get shot on the Senate floor, and not a single one of the other senators would testify in court as to who did it.
We're all equal suspects here.
Oh goodness, it's again the guys. I'm sorry, I have the guy is a toady in every possible way, and I'm not ashamed of saying it. And I know that there are Republicans who think that Ted Cruz is a toady. He's a sycophant and a toady, and the guy has no shame. He has no dignity.
But George Santos is going to be in prison for 7
That'll be good. So. All right. Okay, this is not a political talk show, so let's get back into our regular
Batman,
talk.
Super Soldier Serum.
Batman, Super Soldier. So I would say, to answer your question, if Bruce Wayne had access to the Super Soldier Serum, he would do it. He would do it in a heartbeat.
But is he worthy?
No.
Yeah, you don't think he?
If it goes on quote unquote worthiness, and now we're talking about, are we talking about the canon in the comics or in the movies?
Well, I know, like in the movies, the way they write it off, they say basically like, Red Skull took the same formula, so to speak, but because there was hate in his heart, he becomes this whatever. I don't know if that's cartoon canon or if that's comic canon per se, but I know that he had a version of it. So if it's just taking the serum gives you the powers, so to speak, then yes, of course, Bruce Wayne, Batman would take a chemical enhancement that didn't have any negative repercussions.
Yeah, no, he would do it, but I wouldn't say, but because Bruce Wayne's a fascist. I mean, Batman is a fascist. I mean, a lot of times people are like, "Oh, he's a fascist." He's authoritarian. He's not. I mean, he believes it's my way or the highway. The way Batman is written, that's essentially what he is. I mean, the
Daredevil without the Catholicism.
Yeah, pretty much. Although not even to that extreme. I mean, because Batman, again, Batman is a hypocrite in a lot of cases. The rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to him. He will
it depends largely on who's writing him and in what capacity, but we know that the extremes of Batman have come from the Frank Millers of the world, who took the id of the character and just shoved it right up to that. I will I won't kill, but I will beat literally senseless.
Right. Well, Batman Year One, Batman is more of a he's an anarchist. Well, not quite anarchist, but
I mean, the roots of the character has, I said, for me, it always boils down to the animated series. That to me is quintessential. If someone asks me anything about Batman in terms of best, the answer starts at the animated series always.
Yeah, but then the animated series, even at its best, Batman is again emotionally distant,
yes,
and a fascist. I mean, all respect to Bruce Timm and Kevin Conroy and all the folks who put that together, but it's like, but although they recognize the way Batman was, that's that's just the way he is.
What's that? They slowly sanded off the edges with Justice League.
I was going to say for Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, yes, they did sand off the edges. That is true.
And then when all of that goes away, we get the grizzled old man of Batman Beyond,
where he's back to being a fascist again,
or even worse. Yes. But this is always the play, right? When you put Batman into the Justice League by terms strictly of power, I don't care how smart the man is. He couldn't hold a candle physically to almost any of the other Justice Leaguers. About the only person he has a genuine fighter's chance with from the animated version would be Hawkgirl.
Yes. Well, wait, how much prep time does he get?
That's always the case, right? With prep time, everything shifts, right? Batman with prep time destroys everybody. We know that's the whole.
He did take down Darkseid. Remember, he took down Darkseid.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he took down the Darkseid in the same way that Ant-Man took down
Kang
or Thanos.
Or Thanos, yes.
Or anyone for that matter.
Wait, did he go up? He didn't go up the butt, did he?
No. He at best actually that's
again we're at YouTube now, so I can kind of say that. I couldn't say that.
It's all part of the same thing. I said even my 8-year-old, by the way, watched Infinity War and Endgame for the first time all the way through, and even he was back going, why did Star-Lord not just wait for them to pull the glove off?
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
Like exactly. He ruined it all. He ruined it all.
It's all his fault. It was all his fault.
It was all basically, we were right there, and it could have happened.
Although that was straight out of a comic book, though. I mean, the framing they did it was like, oh man, this looks just like what would happen in a comic.
Well, that's Marvel loves doing that, so all of us can go.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was pretty much the entirety of Wolverine Deadpool.
Yes.
They didn't even try. Here's a bunch of covers. Make that happen.
Comic stuff up, and we're even gonna put in a joke about video games in here.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw it twice and I loved it, so I'm not gonna sit here and take.
Oh no, I agree. No, I agree. I've said it seems like every time I watch Deadpool and Wolverine, I actually enjoy it more.
I was like, if you can make me like
more, yeah.
If you can make me like Gambit, you win.
Because I can understand him more and more with each episode, with each reviewing. Oh, okay. Oh, that's what he was saying. Oh, okay. I get it now.
Still will never give up the ghost. I don't care how much you love the 90s. Gambit's costume is the dumbest one.
Is it because of the helmet thingy that doesn't even cover the face, or is it because he wears a trench coat over everything?
It's all the all of the pieces together. It's not just one piece that makes it bad. It's the wearing leg braces up to the knee. It's wearing a body sock. It's wearing purple and teal armor, and then the head sock, which again to leave the hair out for some reason, and then a trench coat for mobility's sake. I mean, I guess he needs a trench coat to hold on to his deck and his infinite bow staff. But as a look, it's basically he's 4 thigh pouches away from just being the 90s.
I mean, I'm ready to agree with you to an extent, but I can't get the image of Mike Grell's design for Cosmic Boy in the 1970s Legion of Superheroes, where Cosmic Boy is essentially dressed like a male stripper and has, these little bands across his chest.
Oh yeah, that is pretty awful. But that's a different universe. So
that's true.
Each are able to have their terrible. And look, I mean, there's some pretty bad designs across the board. It's funny that Kill
Raven.
Sure.
I mean, if you want to see how Kill Raven would work, I've made this joke before. Look at the costume for Kill Raven, and then Google Sean Connery Zardoz.
That's
and that is essentially Kill Raven's costume, but done in live action, and you're like, oh, that doesn't work.
It doesn't, though. You know what? I give them credit where it's due. Finally, a male superhero dressing as terribly as most of the females.
Yes,
Um,
it is pretty
uh,
bad.
it is interesting too. On the same note, I would go ahead and say friend of both of ours, Henri Compen, just got into a huge, admitting his love affair for Spawn's spiked boots. Of all
Yeah,
the things, I mean,
well,
Spawn's look to me is fine, but like I've never particularly, to me it just looked like Todd McFarlane just checking off all the boxes of things I'm good at drawing.
I think of like Gene Simmons in Kiss, who also had spiked boots.
I mean, and he basically just took Spider-Man's mask and Gene Simmons' costume and said, "Poof, superhero."
Pretty much. Oh, mind
Uh,
you, it's made him millions of dollars, and it got him to buy Mark McGuire's baseball and
if it
start his
makes him
own toy
happy.
line. And although
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen to the McFarlane toy line with all the terrorists now coming in.
There's a whole bunch of weird I mean, all of that stuff is weird. I'm surprised that they're selling Switch 2s now. Apparently you can actually get your hands on the pre-order. So I guess they've decided against that, and everyone pay attention to Amazon. But let's not get political.
Yeah, really.
I'm actually curious. I'm gonna dare dabble into the one zone of professional sports I care about, the Bears. Did you follow their drafting at all?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we did. And the WRMN sports crew did a draft show on Thursday night,
Cool, cool.
which was a lot of fun. Marcus, Derek, and Mike did their bit. If you didn't see that, by the way, folks who are watching, go again to the WRMN YouTube page. You will see we kept the whole draft show is on the YouTube. I was watching it because we're expanding our sports coverage on WRMN. We have the White Sox. We are going to be covering the Red Stars, the Schaumburg Boomers, and some other things. And our sports guys, it's like like hanging out with your friends in the basement watching it, because while they might not necessarily have all the statistics and stuff, they certainly have the passion. And man, was that on display the night of the draft, because I was listening to them and then bouncing around listening to the other shows and how they were describing the different drafts. I will say this: the moment I heard after the Bears picked I forget the name of the tight end that they selected in the first round,
Colston Loveland.
Colston Loveland. Yes. Right after him, the 49ers picked the defensive lineman. The very next pick 11. And I was there
Yep.
going, I went to myself, that guy is going to end up being an all pro. And we're going to be talking somewhere down the line how the Bears could have picked him, but they passed on him and let him go to the Niners. Mark my words, folks. I forget. I don't even know who. I forget the guy's name. All I know was 49ers with the 11th pick picked a decent defensive lineman, someone that the Bears also needed, but the
Well,
49ers snatched him up. And this guy, I have this feeling he's going to be a monster, and that we will be talking about how the Bears could have had him.
well, it's funny. Like if you're a Bears fan, right? There's always several narratives that always come part and parcel with our team. It's wrong picks, and it's getting rid of, well, as of recently, getting rid of quarterbacks or other players who go on to become something better in another team or another spot. Now, I mean, I'm looking down at the seven picks, or multiple picks that we had, and it said I don't know the first thing about college football. I don't follow it. It's too complicated for me. I don't understand it half the time, and I know that there's weird mini controversies all throughout, so I just don't care. What I look at is what positions are we picking up? Because I'm just going to assume they're talented, that they were scouted, that these teams tried to figure this out. We haven't always drafted well, mind you, but that's my, like, hey, I'm going to give you this much. I'm going to assume you guys know what a good football player is. So cool. I like Ben Johnson as our next head coach. From what I've seen of him, I like his ethos. I like that he is he seemingly cares more than our last couple of coaches who kind of came in with this like, we're gonna breed great men and we're gonna be a good team, win, lose, or draw. And Ben Johnson's like, screw all that, we're gonna win, and winning is what determines good stuff. I'm all for that. So I see we have Colston Loveland, a tight end on Michigan. Cool. Tight ends are great if you have really cool schemes, and Ben Johnson seems like he'll have some interesting places to drop him.
Mind you, he already has a tight end, but go on.
You can have multiple, right?
Yeah, well, they're talking about the two tight end setups. That's true.
Yeah, why not? We picked up a wide receiver and an offensive tackle in round 2. Oh, and a defensive tackle too. So we had a plethora there. That's good, right? We need tackles, defense, and offense, and getting another wide receiver. Great. Those are like a roll of toilet paper. One of them just gets torn. You just put the next one in there and catch the ball.
Wow.
We got a linebacker in round 4, a center in round 5, or I'm sorry, CB, cornerback. Another offensive lineman in round 6, and then last, Kyle Monagai, a running back from Rutgers.
That was the thing that has been all the talk on sports radio, that the Bears waited forever to find a running back. But to which I will say, there are very few outstanding running backs in the NFL right now. They generally are quite fungible. What you do is you stock up on a bunch of decent running backs and you just throw them out there and just let them go again and again and again.
My thing has always been the sign. This is again how deep I get into pro football. My whole thing is, does the running back run into the butt of the guy in front of him? Because that's how I determine if I don't like you or not. Because
that is called the tush push, as they say.
Oh no, not the play. I mean, like, I'm running a run. Yeah. And so many Bears in the last couple of seasons, you've watched the running back literally just
run right into the guy in front of him. Yes.
Who is also a Bear.
Yes.
And you're like, last I checked, the whole point is to get around those, unless it is clear and obvious. But I said I still loved Matt Forte and those years, and I like those guys. We're not going to get Barry Sanders, so
the Bears did Matt Forte bad. They did him wrong. They did.
Well, he was another one. I think that when he left, he wherever he went, it mattered.
Yeah, and he was good even when he was with us, but they didn't want to pay him, and the Bears were doing dirty pool, like implying that he was hurt or something, and this was in the early days of Twitter, where Matt Forte put out a video of himself on Twitter, like doing all these workouts and stuff to show that he wasn't hurt. So
it's a lot. I'm so excited. Truly, I'm excited for the Bears this season.
I'm excited too, but I mean, first, everyone's excited about Ben Johnson, which great, mind you. Right now he's going to have to distinguish himself to be more than just Matt Nagy 2.0. Yeah, because I remember the same kind of talk being said about Matt Nagy, coming from a Super Bowl winning team, the guy who made made the offense work in Kansas City, and he was going to do that here in Chicago with our number 1 draft pick, Justin Fields, at that time, all that kind of thing. The Bears, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a Bears fan. I will always root for the Bears, but they always win the offseason and they get us excited, and then we get into the regular season and it seems like all that stuff doesn't pan out. So I'm hoping for better, but you know what? I'm going to protect my heart right now. My heart's been hurt. I've been hurt too many times. I'm going to wait. Yeah.
I'm a pragmatist. Last season, my personal want for the Bears was to be 8-8. That's all I was hoping for.
And you didn't get that.
No.
They didn't even get it this past year. It's like, no. Yeah. I never thought Eberflus was the guy.
I absolutely hated that guy. I did not understand. Put it this way. I had more faith in, Tressman, the guy from Canada?
Oh God, that's another one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the dude who like I wasn't even sure if he knew what American football was. Like he got here and he's like, wait, this isn't rugby.
I mean, mind you, he ended up going back to the Canadian. Well, he was an offensive coordinator for a little bit longer in the NFL, and then he went back to the CFL and went back to winning, mind you, in the CFL.
Sure. I mean, look, I just look at it and say, like, my goal, highfalutin as it might be, I want us to get to 10 wins. I believe we can get to 10 wins if things work the way that Ben Johnson says he wants them to. And it's like everybody else, I have hope. And obviously, if we get to hate watch, then let it flow. Because at that point, it's almost as entertaining. This past season, it got to be very entertaining to see how many ways we could lose on the last play.
Yep.
Because it happened like 3 games in a row where it was just a preventable mistake.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're like, well, seriously, if you're at all religious, God is not a Bears fan.
No.
So
I mean, and Eberflus was like Donald Trump there at the end, utterly clueless and not accepting any blame for anything that happened.
Also true. Hey, now watch this. I'm going to tie it right back to pro wrestling so we can end. Did you see Seth freaking Rollins?
Thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to mention that if the Bears do anything this coming season, please beat Green Bay, because I am petty AF.
Yes.
And when Seth Rollins went out there to announce the Bears pick, oh my goodness, how he trolled the Green Bay fans. I mean, it took place in Green Bay. There were some morons would go on sports radio saying, "Oh, look, the Bears picked so bad that the crowd was booing." Well, that they were bad picks, that they were in Green Bay.
Yeah, and Seth came out in a Bears suit, or a Bears tinted suit,
and he had one of the championship belts that the
but it was like
NFL,
bear plates and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And this is an interesting, like, stupid factoid that Seth Rollins kind of aligns himself to the Chicago Bears a bit because he did work in the city for quite a bit in his indie career. He hails from Iowa, and we all know Iowa has no professional football team. So you got to kind of see where the compass takes you. And, it didn't take him up to Minnesota, and it didn't take him to Wisconsin. So he wound up with us.
Yeah, he's been on the sideline at Bears games. The Bears treat him real nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of the few times I half tolerate him and hope that someone's not punching him. So
I like Seth Rollins.
I want to like him, but I'll say that he does such a great job of grading with the cackling and the suits. And that's kind of what it did for me. And then again, like some of the styling of his stuff and like to me, Seth Rollins is not big enough to be throwing the pedigree. I think that is a move that is just a step out from what he should be doing. His curb stomp thing is great. Love it. Think it's perfect. It works. The pedigree, though, like on an opponent his size or lower, absolutely. But it's like anything else. If he's fighting somebody, like if he's going up against, I don't know, Otis, you should not be able to put Otis in the pedigree. You should get his arms up, and then Otis should just stand up and walk somewhere and shake you off.
Or do the worm, and get...
Poor kid. Poor kid.
But yeah, I mean, pardon. The whole thing with that was I enjoyed it. It was the one time I did enjoy Seth Rollins, pretty much trolling the crowd.
Oh yeah,
because Clay Matthews came out in the beginning and had to drop, mention President Trump, because it's bad enough that that Wisconsin is Trump land and all those things, but
yeah, but they didn't lose their Supreme Court, so good for you.
Yeah, but the same Supreme Court did uphold the arrest of a local judge for obstruction of justice, apparently. So,
well, you can't win them all, Elliot. Sometimes you just have to eat some cheese.
No, okay, and I don't mean to paint. I mean, Wisconsin's great. I've been to Wisconsin. The people up there are great. They're mostly, for the most part, very friendly. And yes, the brat stop is chef's kiss.
Hey, Culver's slaps. I'll
as
say
well
that
as
much.
and Culver's and the Mars Cheese Castle.
Mars Cheese Castle. Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty to do. Milwaukee is a brilliant city of 14 people.
No, you mean Chicago North?
Yes. It's got its charm. Much like Indianapolis, my unofficial second home. It's a beautiful.
Oh, you mean Chicago Southeast?
South. Yeah, it's all the cities around us that all shut down at 9 p.m.
I know. It's like, come on.
I said, if you're from Chicago and then you go to visit these other cities, and then you ask the locals, like, hey, it's 9 o'clock. What, where are we going? What bars are we hitting up? What clubs? What are we doing? And they just stare back at you like, what? Downtown closed.
Well, yeah, but I mean, let's be fair though. The Loop shuts down at 10.
It does not. Well, I said the pandemic pretty much just.
Yeah, but even before then, oh my God, I remember on evenings after doing overnights on WGN, and they say, hey, we got to find a bar. Nothing was open in the Loop. Nothing. So we'd have to go out to the neighborhoods outside to find like a 2 a.m. bar or a 4 a.m. bar.
I didn't spend too much time downtown. I worked in River North for 3 years. Yeah. And the only time I was ever there late, it was to finish catalogs, and all I wanted to do is get home. So yeah. There was no partying for this kid. I just kind of rolled off to the parking lot and then did like all suburbanites did. I held my steering wheel as hard as I could and prayed that I could get home.
And thankfully you did.
I mean, eventually.
But still, I as much as I would grouse about New York is truly the city that never sleeps. And I remember when I went for New York Comic Con and got struck with insomnia, which was something I dealt with for quite a bit. Was it 3, 4 in the morning? Finding a corner pizza place that was open and being able to buy a fresh slice of pizza, big, huge New York style slice and a Coke for like $3 too. Wasn't even like crazy New York prices. I was like, all right, I can see why people talk about New York as being pretty cool. Yeah.
If you could ignore the garbage on the street and the people.
Yeah. That's true. The garbage. It took me a while to get used to the garbage. Like, why is all the garbage out on the curb? What?
It's that every time I go, I try to learn and adopt a little bit more of New York just to, because you kind of gotta. But yeah, I mean, it's got its charms. You'll never convince me that their pizza isn't. I mean, look, the dollar slices are exactly, you get what you pay for, and for that money, it is fantastic. We've also been taken to John on Bleecker, which is supposed to be the best pizza in the world, and no, it wasn't. It was fine. It just wasn't like move me pizza. One bite, the rules.
Oh God, don't even.
Yeah, my God, I hate that guy even worse. But hey, are you gonna go see the Thunderbolts this weekend?
Oh, definitely. This is my quote unquote birthday weekend.
Nice.
And of course, Marvel always releases a movie on my birthday weekend, so Thunderbolts will be it. I wish they had released Fantastic Four, but I'll live I've got 2 more movies. I got Superman, which I'm really looking forward to, as well as Fantastic Four. But Thunderbolts should be fun. The pre-release buzz has been pretty positive. There was a screening here in Chicago just earlier this week, and many of my friends who attended that screening have already given their input on their socials on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. Some mixed reviews, but I guess the word is lots of folks are going in with low expectations and being surprised at how quote unquote good the movie is.
I mean, this is one of those times where my knowledge of the canon is pretty low. I knew when the first arc came out, what the big twist was, and I looked at this movie saying that's not really applicable here. I
Yeah.
do know the big twist, at least from the trailer, an understanding who we're fighting and why, and where that comes into play. I'm interested because I don't know the first thing about that character other than what's on a trading card.
The,
Never
cent-
seen
the Sentry.
Sentry and the Void.
Yeah, which
Um,
apparently Rick Veitch, who was actually helped create the character with Paul. Man, I'm this early onset uh, senility is hitting me because I can't even remember the
Paul
names.
Jenkins.
Yeah, Paul Jenkins, the names of writers who I actually know.
Just not well.
Yeah, not well enough. Paul Jenkins sharked me in pool at San Diego Comic-Con many years ago. But anyway, Paul Jenkins and Rick Veitch were created the character way before the series debuted at Marvel, and Rick has been on his socials talking about how Marvel's kind of like jobbed him out of any recognition. He's not even in the credits at the end.
He didn't get his $5,000 payday.
Do they get that? I don't know. You just get
That
a
was
name.
that was the running. Like if you're on the Reddits, apparently if you are like name dropped as like that credit, you get like 5K and an invite to the premiere. Because we all know Liefeld had his problems with the Deadpool stuff and not getting enough, in spite of the fact that he's literally all over those movies with name drops and winks and whatever. I said I'm interested in the movie. I feel similarly the way I did coming in with Cap, Brave New World, in that I know I'll be entertained.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that this one seems to have done a better job of not ultimately spoiling the big whatever.
Yes.
And I'm also very interested because they've made it very apparent it is not the Thunderbolts. It's Thunderbolts asterisk.
Yes. And
So
my
there's
guess it's going to be Dark Avengers or something like that.
it could very well
That's
be.
my
Whenever
guess.
it happens to be, I'm excited for it because
Yeah.
again, we know this is our last stop before we get the throwback. Fantastic Four, I mean, come on, that we know it's going to be pretty dang good.
Yeah. From the guy
Marvel's
who gave
holding
us
that one.
WandaVision.
Well, I said those guys are holding those cards so close to the chest you can feel the handshake. Like they're they need a big win on that one.
Well, again, to talk about fandom, I'm not getting why at this point why so much. It's got to be this one's got to make all this money. It's got to. I'm like, why? I mean, their movie, their entertainment. If you had told 13-year-old Elliot that, guess what, you're going to have big budget Avengers movies and Captain America movies and Spider-Man movies and all that, after seeing like the really budget film versions I saw on television as a kid, I would be ecstatic. I would be elated. But now it's like Marvel is a victim of its own success, that they have to, make these films that generate huge box office and get everyone going, oh, this is the greatest Marvel movie ever. I'm telling you, Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, in some cases, are probably the worst things that ever happened to Marvel Studios.
True. And by the way, I'm just looking this little factoid up because I know that we are close in age. So yes, whatever age I was growing up, I knew the comic book movies were few and far between. I made sure to see all of them, even if they were comic related. I remember with my friends, all of us going out on July 22nd, 1999 to catch Mystery Men.
Ah, yeah, that's a good one.
Which again, like, was so far away from what the comics were, but the fact that you were getting even those characters in the manner in which they did, and look, by the way, for guilty pleasure movies, you could do worse. It holds up with its terribleness.
Oh, that movie is ahead of its time too. I mean, if they release it today, It would. I think yes. It would be. It was subverting superhero comics movies then. It's definitely subverting it now, and the talent on that. You
Oh my
had
God, it was a
Jeffrey
list.
Wright, Ben Stiller, Janine Garofalo, William H Macy,
Dane Cook.
Dane. Yeah, well, and then one other guy. But again, you can never get those people in a movie together again.
Not
You'd
in that
never
manner.
be able to. Yeah.
But here's the funniest thing. If you go, and I'm looking at IMDb right now, right, for that weekend, the domestic box office of that, this is a hit list of movies that weekend playing American Pie, Wild Wild West, Lake Placid, Star Wars Episode 1, apparently Muppets from Space was number 5, the South Park movie, Notting Hill, Summer of Sam, The Mummy, The Matrix,
Jeez,
and The Love Letter. So that was what the big story. The Mystery Men debuted, couldn't even crack the top 10.
yeah.
And a little movie called The Matrix also debuted, which, if you don't remember, was not a number one immediate best hit. But I did see The Matrix the following weekend, and then the following weekend, and then the following weekend after that. Absolutely loved that one. And Mystery Men, for what it's worth, I bought the DVD, and I saw it in theaters, but we saw it first, and I bought it when it came out on DVD because they had deleted scenes, which made the movie better.
Yeah. Man, the greatest line, William H. Macy as a shoveler says, "We've got a date with Destiny, and she's ordered the lobster."
Also, one of my favorite gags, just overall, Mr. Furious has no powers whatsoever.
Well, I remember the creator of Mystery Men. He was the creator of Flaming
Bob
Karen.
Burden.
Bob Burden. I saw Bob Burden at I can't remember if it was Chicago or San Diego Comic-Con when he was talking about Mystery Men, and he explained Mr. Furious's powers are that he gets so angry he becomes bulletproof. But that was in the comics.
In the comic.
That wasn't
in the movie. It was just that he got really angry and nothing happened. It's one of those moments I remember, like, I was dying laughing when like the Casanova Frankenstein pulls up in his giant limo for no reason, and they're deciding like they're gonna attack his car, and Mr. Furious gets on top of the roof, and they do like this beautiful crane shot of him looking up to the air, and he like dives onto the hood to dent the car, and nothing happens. He just boom. And he keeps like, pounding the glass and diving. Nothing's happening, while the shoveler is just going 1 foot, bang with shovel, 1 foot, bang with shovel. And it just, the whole stupid thing.
But he has that great scene with the stress ball.
Yes. And he does eventually fury himself up, and he does perform the final like leg trip of Casanova Frankenstein, who, by the way, his only power was creating a death ray and having a coke nail.
And ultimately, and later on, winning an Oscar.
Yes.
Yeah.
The movie itself was great. And you know what? It was one of the first drops we had with Greg Kinnear playing Amazing Man, because they couldn't do Flaming Carrot. Yeah. And he was a superhero who was sponsored by brands.
Yes!
Such a great concept that was way ahead of its time. Yes, almost as good as Mr. Incredible, dovetailing the entire insurance industry in 5 seconds.
Which we need a Mr. Incredible now.
Yes, we do.
We do. All right. Well, you know what? I think we're going to bring this train into the station.
We've earned our keep.
We've earned our keep, because if we're talking about Mystery Men, I think we've gotten as far as we're going to get.
It may never happen again, kids.
Never again. So anyway, when the Torn Quadcast is back next week, we'll talk about Thunderbolts, which again,
or Avengers. Depends on what happens.
They might just call it Dark Avengers or Avengers. Who knows? Or something else. Who knows? My predictions have been wrong, pretty much. and we'll talk about that. But I'm pretty sure we're going to have more developments. Yes, we didn't talk about how WWE has already set up John Cena versus Randy Orton at Backlash. But again, I couldn't get really worked up for that. I was like Mr. Furious. Just,
Hey, this is for the last time. This is their 87th meeting.
So we'll probably talk more about that, as well as what else is going on in the world of sports entertainment, sports and entertainment. If you've been hanging with us this long, thank you so much for sticking around. We hope next week to be a little more entertaining. Let's see. Maybe we'll get someone from the Unshaven Rantcast on.
We might, if they can get over themselves.
Get over them. Oh. For Mark Allen Fishman, I'm Elliott Serrano. This has been the Torn Quadcast. Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourselves. Be good to your friends. Be good to your pets. Stay out of trouble, because I ain't got bail money.